What's up, guys? What's up? Welcome back to Deck Talk Podcast. We have one heck of a show coming up tonight, and I've been waiting to get one of these fellas on the podcast. We've never really met besides just chit chatting on the computer. I was planning on going and doing guide trips with them and doing some filming with them, but life happens and was not able to get it going. But we finally got him on. But guys, if you don't know, I'm Colin Burnett.
That's right, Colin, and I'm Norman Lee. And yeah, you're right, man. We have a heck of a show tonight, and we've been looking forward to this episode for quite some time, ever since we locked these two cats on. But Colin, we have some business to take care of first. We got to pay some bills here. Our sponsor for tonight's episode is Riv Headgear. Now, Riv is designed utilizing an innovative double layer fabric system which provides ongoing ventilation and ultralight comfort. Riv isn't only protecting you, but it's protecting your way of life as an outdoorsman for the future. Whether you work, play, hunt, or fish, Rift brought sun protection to another level, creating headwear that is comfortable, practical, and effective, ensuring your safety and giving you a peace of mind. Go to Rift Headgear today. Get yours at www.riftheadgear.com. Don't forget, make sure you use that discount code DECKTALK10. Again, that is riftheadgear.com. Don't forget, use that discount code DECKTALK10. Man, that's right, Colin. We have one heck of a show tonight. And as you can see on the right hand side of your TV screens that you're looking at there, our guest tonight, you know what? Let's just get started with this. Our guest tonight, well, you know what? We have a special treat for you guys. We have two guests for the price of one, two legit Florida Hammers with us tonight. They are two of the premier fishing guides on Headwaters Lake and a few other lakes in South Florida as well. If you follow along on their social media, it will actually blow your mind. The giant bass that they put their clients on each and every trip out, guys and girls. That's right. I am talking about about Captain Stephen Coleman and Captain Mike Ward. What's going on, my man? How you guys
What's
doing
up? Y'all
tonight?
doing good?
Oh
Man, I tell you guys, I started a page on Facebook called USA Guide List, and the first person to like holler at me and say, "Hey, I want a part of this," was Steven. And man, and ever since then we just kind of just chit chatted back and forth. And I mean, it's been a pretty good friendship that we've had, just chit chatting, talking about fishing. And one of these days, brother, we're going to get out there with y'all, and we're going to get go rip some lips and be able to put it on some film.
I tell you what, I was looking forward to the last time that you were supposed to come in. Like you said, lined up. And y'all were going to see my brother. I didn't show up. We'll get you out there.
Heck yeah, we we had I had some family stuff that was going on, uh, and so I mean, and as soon as and guys, and I'll tell you, this is kind of guys that Steve and Mike are. Is as soon as I called them up and told them, I said, "Hey man, I cannot make it. My mom had a stroke." I got a message from both of them saying, "Hey, if you need anything, just let us know. We're keeping y'all in the thoughts and prayers." And and that's from somebody who we've never met in person. It's just all just been communications back and forth through on social media and through text message and stuff like that. So if that kind of gives you a little idea of kind of guys that these are. And but man, I've just been stoked about having y'all come on because I mean, what I guess I've had that USA Guide page going for about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years or something like that. And just to see the fish that y'all are bringing in, has just been crazy. That it's like every time y'all go out, I mean, it's y'all are catching. I mean, a lot of parts of the country they say it's monster fish, and I know that y'all wouldn't consider what we consider monster fish. Y'all consider average, but but I just want to know, like, how is it that y'all stay so consistent on being able to put your clients out uh, every time you go out? Y'all, it always seems like y'all are having a field day out there.
So I'll start with that. A lot of you know as well as I do, being an angler, you know, on the water,
Yeah.
putting that time in. When you're we had days off as a guy, which not very many. You're on the water. You're looking for new fish. You're looking for new places. These fish are safe now. These fish are no different than any fish up north or anywhere else. These fish change up in different times of the year. You know, you got spring, summer, and fall. And you got winter. You know, so you know you have these different things, and if you know where to look, put the time in the water, you can find these fish. Now, granted, you know you go through phases every once in a while where you have to go through some schoolies, what we call schoolies down here, are 1 to 4 pounders. Up north sometimes we like fish are going in a sack for a big five, right? We're chucking these over like that in the 4 pounder. So staying on the water, staying busy, and always looking for different. That is the key down here. These lakes down here are very dynamic. Water. Headwaters is a very dynamic lake. It's got a lot of unique things. This is a man-made lake. It's 10,250 acres of just bass habitat that you cannot. I fished Chickamauga, Gunnersville. I fished Tennessee lakes. I fished Kentucky lakes. You know, Kentucky Park. This lake is a bass factory. It's a
Yeah.
stock. It's a bass factory. Never seen someone talk gorilla in your life. And it is an absolute beast sometimes to figure out. And this is why I say that. There's fish everywhere, but the fish that true anglers that look for that big fish, um, everything looks so good. It will spin you out very quickly.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it makes it look good. We're going to fish in those areas where we know it's good fish hang out
Right.
because everything looks so good. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing about Florida lakes and stuff like that. Like the first time that I went down to Florida to fish with Norman, and that's what I told him. I was like, man, how do you know where to go? I mean, because like everywhere you look, there should be a 10 pounder everywhere around. And I'm like, how do you know? And he's like, but Norman, I mean, he's fished Central Florida his whole life, and he's fished all over Florida, and so with having him and the experience and stuff like that was a blessing to be able to. I mean, because I would just waste my time fishing places that I thought like around here. If we seen something that looked like that, we're like, all right, there's gonna be fish right there, and I would have wasted a bunch of time on that.
Yeah, that's one of the things, in my opinion. Now, Florida, for somebody that's not from Florida, and you take like us from Florida that's used to fish Florida lakes and put us on another lake that we're not familiar with out of the state of Florida. But if I had to guess, Florida is the hardest bass lakes for somebody that's not familiar with the area to actually go to it as a new body of water and be able to be successful right off the bat. That's the main reason is when you get on most all your South Florida lakes, everything looks great. Everything looks like there's going to be a 10 pounder around every corner, but it's
Yeah,
actually not. Uh, but when you do get on one or two fish, chances are there's going to be more in that area. But you might go down 3 miles of shoreline that all looks the same before you actually get bit, and all of a sudden it's going to be like a light switch turned on within a 50-yard stretch and catch 3, 5, 6 pound fish, bam, bam, bam. But everything looked the same that you fished prior. So, if I had my opinion is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, if you guys feel the same way, but Florida fishing for an outsider is probably the hardest lakes to come down and be successful right off the bat than anywhere else in the United States because of that reason.
I agree with you 100% because I was in that same boat and 7 years ago. I'm talking 6 years ago. I started fishing down here. that's what I found. The biggest problem for me was is everything does look good. You pull up on a lot of northern lights. Oh my goodness, there. I mean, that looks fantastic. Fish off of it. The problem is here is that everything looks like that. Like you
Yeah,
said, and it's a little tough sometimes, and it can spin you out very quickly, right, Mike?
Oh, well, without a doubt, the biggest thing I could suggest anybody coming down to fish, particularly a lake like Headwaters, get quality mapping, when you're doing this, because that's going to be invaluable. Because, I mean, from the time you take off from the ramp, um, everywhere you look, it's like, oh, that's fishing, that's fishing.
Yes.
And as we all know, that's not the case. So you got to find those little areas where maybe there's so many ditches, so many canals that they've done, deep pits.
Yes.
You're talking about acres on hundreds of acres of orange groves that were flooded. So you've got humps, going like this, and I mean, it's amazing the amount of fish that are just that 1 foot depression
yeah,
can make such a difference.
Yeah. And Norman, you said it right. I mean, you hit it right on the head. Everything looks good, and once you get down here, it's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah,
Is the best way to describe it. It's overwhelming,
yeah.
and your eyes light up, and you don't make a thought. You can go around it. And so,
right,
you gotta catch a giant like that. You know it's gonna hear, right? Because
yeah.
what's he,
Like
6,
big
7, 8?
blue. Yeah, that's a boat ramp. They catch 6, 7, 8 pounds.
I mean, there's 6 It's amazing. I pulled in the other day, and I'm sorry if I'm taking too long, but I pulled in the other day, and I had a class on the boat. We're sitting there. Our biggest fish is like 7-11. I pull up there, and these guys are off the dock. They pulling in 8-3, and I'm like, you guys got to stop doing that. You're killing me.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of as y'all were saying that it's with trying to like to find big fish and stuff like that, and how tough like Florida fisheries are. Because people just think that they can just go down to Florida and they're going to catch that 10 pounder or whatever. And we had Mike Iconelli on, and somebody asked him from the comments and said, "What lake has your number?" And he says, "I'll do one better than that." He says, "I'll give you a state that has my number." He said, "Florida has my number." He says, "I enjoy going down there, but I hate fishing them lakes because," he said, "they always have my number."
He said he loves going down, spending time with the family on vacation, going to Disneyland, but he hates going fishing in tournaments.
Yeah. So, but and it goes to show like if somebody of his caliber is having, it's not that he has hard times, but he just can't. He's not on the big fish to cash out that or to get the win down in Florida. And if he's having that kind of issues, it shows that it is a tough fishery. It has its rewards, but it's also you got to do your homework and stuff like that as well. Not the fact that he's not, he's doing his homework, but
Yeah.
it's just a tough
Well, I
fishery.
tell you what, as good as the pro guys are on the Elite Series and the Bass Pro Tour, when them guys go down to Florida, and you got to remember they only fish probably Florida once a year. They might fish two lakes in the year, but normally it's one lake in a year. Usually they're on either Okeechobee or Kissimmee or St. John's. But when they get down there, man, them guys fish it one time a year, and I guarantee you, the guys that end up in the championship Sunday on the top 10 is the guys that got very, very lucky. And a lot of them guys, if you ask them how they found their fish, the first thing they're going to tell you, being that they don't know the areas that well, they're just, and again, it goes back to what we say, everything looks the same for somebody that comes down and only fishes it once a year versus like Steven and Mike that are on the lakes day in and day out, being able to follow the pattern, follow the fish, kind of see where they're going, where they're coming. But them guys will be the first to tell you, man, we just dropped the trolling motor down, find one area, one section of the lake, keep the trolling motor down and keep the baits wet and keep fishing.
Yeah.
Because you come into it like an Okeechobee or like a Headwaters and think you're going to be able to actually run around from place to place and only there for 3 days and be able to find big fish like Steven and Mike is catching on a daily basis, you pretty much might as well not even put
Yeah.
the boat in the water. So a
Right.
lot of them guys, they just drop the trolling motor down and start fishing and try to luck up onto some areas.
Yeah. And so, real quick, I just got a comment. Steve, can you speak up a little bit? That says that they can hear Mike pretty good, but you're kind of soft spoken, is what they said.
Usually the other way around.
So, but real quick, can y'all? What's the name of y'all's charter to where if somebody and how can people find y'all to be able to book a trip with y'all?
It's FL Big Bass Adventures Guide Service, and you can
Yep.
Google that. It'll pull the site up for you. We have a contact number on there. If you're going to book a trip, please call. Don't book a trip online. I think Mike took it off where you can't actually book it
Yeah,
online.
it was just so busy, during this winter time that it's hard to make bookings
Yeah,
online.
Right.
Uh, but we'll get back to that as
Yes.
the summer thing.
yeah,
But FLBigBassAdventures.com is our
Yeah.
website where you
yeah,
can check us all out and get also find out
yeah.
you know.
And we'll make sure to put the contact info also in the description of all the platforms that this episode will appear on too. So if anybody's out there, guys, and I will tell you point blank, these guys will put you on fish. I'll show you a great time,
Yeah.
and just go to their social media pages, man, and just check out almost on a daily basis. I know I follow along with Steven quite a bit, and just to see his trips that he posts on Facebook, man, it's just unbelievable. You know how they stay so consistent on a day in and day out basis,
Yeah.
being able to catch those big hogs down there. So it'll be a fun trip if anybody's wanting to book, guys. You got to hook up with these guys.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about Headwaters. Um, does Headwaters change like how Okeechobee changes? Like each spot, like on Okeechobee, like the wind will blow the grass and all that. The what is it? The floating grass.
Floating.
And does it flow it? Does it float it around,
Oh, yeah.
or does it pretty much stay kind of the same?
Oh no, it floats all around. The navigation canals that to take are completely clogged, 20, 30 feet deep of ice. It is
Right.
identical. So you gotta know another way to get around or get to where you want to go. And obviously, some guys, if you're new down here, you're not gonna know that. But yeah, we get heavy wind depending on the wind direction. There's times we get back to the boat ramp, we can't move our boat. It takes us a half an hour to pull the foot ice out of the boat. So,
Yeah, we
it's one
spent.
of them deals.
I want to give a shout out to a couple of guys just real quick because we had some islands, and I'm talking islands with trees growing on them,
Yeah.
small, short trees growing on them. So they have a mud base floating up on those stalls, one and two at Headwaters. But Larry Hauser and Dan Hand, both of those guys helped me out. The three of us jumped on there, threw some anchor ropes on there, and drove those islands off for everybody to get their boats out. The biggest thing about Headwaters and the navigation is the wind. The wind will change, it'll float new stuff in different places. For instance, the other day we had 28 and change, our big five fish, flipping a big 11-inch worm up on some hyacinth mats, right on the edge of some hyacinth mats. We had a hard east wind, and I went out the next day, and I had a feeling this was going to happen, Mike. But we went out, and I was going to fish the same area because we lost two giant fish, 8+ pound fish that same day. I went out the next day, and the hyacinths were covered over on top of my fish. So that's kind of what you're dealing with. Depending on the wind direction, you may be on fish in a certain area, and the wind can change, and it may cover your fish up. Those fish will not acclimate or reacclimate to that new um,
structure that quickly overnight. So you got to give it 2, 3, 4 days. But
Make you change again.
yes, but the thing about it is though is patterns. I will tell you about Headwaters patterns. I like I said, I fished a lot of places. Kentucky Lake and Barkley, they had patterns because of ledges in June, July, August.
Yeah.
Patterns here at Headwaters exist just like that. If you can find the same structure, mats that you're fishing, and so on, but the wind changes it. Where we thrive out there is we're fishing stuff that has been there. Fish are on it, fish are using it. It's ever changing. So when you go out there, say you go out there on a Monday and everything looks good, you may be fishing a whole stretch down through there. The wind just blew that in overnight. And as a guide, I can tell you those fish are not there yet. It may be there in a couple, 3 days after they acclimate to it. We need to go fish this other area because those mats have been there for several weeks.
All right.
That's where we come in with that. But yes, so the navigation and stuff like that can be a little tricky. But, and I understand coming from the north, down here, that we don't want to push our boats up on islands and push islands around, right? How bad you want to fish? That's what I say. How bad you want to get a shot at an absolute giant? So, a lot of these mats will move, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So,
You just need to know.
yeah, you
Yeah.
just push them along, just take your time. So,
Yeah. Now they have a 25. I think it's either 25 or 35 mile an hour speed limit on Headwaters.
yeah.
How much is that speed limit enforced by FWC? And the reason I'm asking that is the few times I've been down there, I actually do the speed limit, and I don't know.
Except for one time, Norman.
Well, yeah, we had to get back quick because we had a thunderstorm chasing our asses down.
Yeah, it was.
And
It
I
was
don't, I
hammered
don't
down.
think there's any FWC guys out there when that Thunder Boomers was coming towards us. But anyway, I'm doing the speed limit, and I'm having boats passing me in the channel that I know if I'm doing whatever the speed limit signs say, they're doing more than that. So is that enforced? And I could see why they do have speed limits like you're talking about. There's a lot of stuff that might be there one day that wasn't there the next day. So they want to, be safe for guys that really don't know how to navigate that well down there.
That's a great question, Norman, because we get this question all the time. All the time. So, yes, you are correct. It is 25 miles an hour. Um, you will have some people that will pass you in the main canal, which is actually called the S Canal. Um, should you do that? No. Can you do that if you're not going over 25? Yes. But should you? No. I mean, it's not a canal. I mean, you can get 3 boats, 4, 5, 6 boats side by side, stretched across there. But at the same time, what's safe and what's courteous, right?
Yeah.
So we've had this discussion. We do YouTube videos and stuff like that. We talk about, when you come up to somebody in a navigation canal, rules state that you're supposed to set the boat down and idle past people fishing nearby.
Yep.
And so on. Well, a lot of folks don't do that. But there's a caveat to that. You have people that are in those travel canals and they're fishing on the edges and they will wave you by, tell you to come by. So if you don't see the wave by, yes, travel at the speed, set the boat down, idle by people fishing.
Common sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
common sense courtesy.
And there's
Yes.
places you don't want to set your boat down. Especially as summer gets closer. The hydrilla just grow. I think it's growing by the day.
Yeah.
And you stick your boat down in that, and you're not going to get back up on place.
Yeah. Now, with being a person that's lived in Tennessee his whole life, and the first time, like I've seen alligators in captivity, and I was telling Steve about this, and Norman knows the first place that I ever saw an alligator, like in the natural wildlife and stuff like that, was on Headwaters. And so, do you have a lot of people that come on the guides that when they see a 10, 12 foot alligator and they're like, "Holy cow!" I mean, because that's what I did. I was in shock and awe, and Norman's over there throwing a spook at it, trying to get it to just to do something, and I'm over here like, "Don't bring that sucker over here."
Yes, yes. So hey, Colin, you're not in a group of your own. I promise. You're in good shape. We just had some folks from Minnesota.
Yeah.
We just had some folks from Minnesota come visit, and they were in awe about the Gators. Um, and some of these Gators are very interactive. Colin, you know what I'm talking about. Interactive. So they'll get super close. They'll come up and kind of see what you're going to maybe give them. You know,
Yeah,
maybe give them on stuff. I don't know.
They know there's bait under that bottom sometimes.
You
You're
know.
not fishing.
So let me tell you something about the shiner fishing, Norman. So these gators are super attracted to bright colors. So we got like orange, pink, and blue, and green, and stuff like that. Of course, that we use for shiner trips. But if there's a gator within a half a mile, he sees that he's coming over to check it out, and you get a little free snag over there on a dead shiner or something. And I tell you what, it's something else. Oh, Colin, you're not on your own on that, brother. You know, alligators down there or here are something else, man. And I've seen some giants. I mean, there's some giants, 12, 13-foot alligators, man,
yeah,
that absolutely will come up next to the boat. I was telling Colin earlier, Norman, that I had a guy from Indiana. We were artificial fishing. We probably had, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 pounds in three fish. And we were kind of up the bag for him because he was trying to get over 20 pounds because he had never caught a 20-pound bag of fish before. And this gator was in between the hyacinth mat that we were flipping and the boat. And I was like, well, see if you can scare him off. And, I was like, half wittingly, saying, get out of here, and he wasn't having it, right? So the guy that I had with me, he takes this 2 ounce weight and he bangs it in the mat. Well, this gator comes 3 foot out of the
yeah.
water, Mike. 3 foot out of the water and just smashes on the mat like a million you in my house doing that.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're leaving.
Yeah.
It's time to go.
Yeah, yeah. We when we were on, which I told you, Steve, that like when we were on Headwaters, like we only was able to fish like 2.5, 3 hours because just like what Norman said. I mean, we had this huge storm roll up on us, and if you haven't ever been on Headwaters, guys, like you when you get out there in the middle and it's wide open and stuff like that, it's real easy to get lost. And um, so I've got a fairly good sense of direction. Norman, he if he doesn't have his Lake Master on and the GPS, he's getting lost going to Walmart 5 minutes away from his house. But
I get lost in a round room.
yeah, so I'm watching this weather system come in, and and I'm telling Norman, I said, "Hey, it's coming." And he's like, "No, we're over here." And I'm like, "No, right there where it's coming. It is going right by the boat ramp."
I knew it was
And
coming, but we're starting to get on some fish, so I don't want to leave.
yeah, and so we I think Norman broke the land speed record coming down the S Canal or whatever you called it, and I mean, because it was something else. Like we turned off all the units. We didn't want no electricity going to the boat besides the big motor, and we just hammered down on it. But so, but getting back to the alligators, like we never had them on Headwaters. But again, to come up that close to the boat until like we went to the Everglades and was fishing the canals down there, and uh, so like and I was talking when I was talking to you earlier, so we was talking about this, and like they would come like play chicken with us, but then they'd kind of veer off and go to the side and stuff. And Mike, we had one that was ever bit 9, 10 foot, just come swimming right by, got about 10 yards behind us and flipped the Yui. and came up to about even with the console. And I'm on the trolling motor, and so not ever really been that close to an alligator in the wild. I'm over here. I had my GoPro going. I had my phone out taking pictures. I got some good pictures. And then Norman's like, "Hey, I want you to know that alligator's over here thinking, do I go on and eat me a meal, or do I just let these guys go on?" He said, "And the thing about it is you're twice the size that I am. He's probably coming after you because you got a little more meat on the bone."
Yeah, I get her sizing you up, Colin.
So, well, Steve brought up a good thing. He said that he might have went after you first for the appetizer.
Oh, there you go. I've been thinking about that.
So, but uh, but when and we fished the Everglades last year and got on some peacocks, but we had one gator that, I mean, just stayed with us probably about 80% of the day, just going down this canal. And uh but I mean, he was literally, his nose was inches from the gunnel of the boat, and every time that we'd catch a fish and it'd splash on top of the water, here he comes wherever it was splashing. And kind of going like what you were saying, Steve, is, I mean, he hung around the boat, and we'd flip the peacocks or the fish on the other side of the boat to where we wasn't trying to feed them. And even though I did feed him about a 6 pound peacock, uh, I did let one get it. He demolished that sucker.
Yeah.
But so with that being said, it is very, if you really enjoy wildlife and stuff like that, I mean, you need to just go out there and just experience. I mean, because it is an experience just having all that wildlife around you. And then on plus, if you go out with these guys, you're going to be catching a big old bag anyway. So what's even better to spend time in nature, having all this wildlife around, and then be able to come back to the boat ramp with a big old bag.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I got confused one day because I'm out on a trip and I'm on some big fish and I told this young lady, I said, all right, let's go fish. But I'm going to see some gators and we'll see some. We'll do that. And here we are, catching 6, 7 pound fish. All right, we're on the spot. We're throwing in there, and I'm like, we're gonna catch maybe a 10 pounder right here, plus some 6 and 7s, and we're catching 6 and 7 pound bass. But I'm ready to go. I want to go look at some birds. I'm not ready to go. I want to go. Promise. So you know, I got to take you for a loop. So it's funny that you say that. Tons of wildlife. The spoonbill population down here, times a year, the birds are phenomenal. You know, you get real pink, the winter time is down, pink and white,
Beautiful.
beautiful birds. And, there's a stick mark. So the great road that feeds, the Headwaters program also feeds the stick mark program. So it's all the same road right there. At the end of that road is that's where those birds. They have like a little sanctuary area where it's all limits for boats and stuff like that. Certain times of the year, that's where those birds live, and that's where they come to winter. And people from all over come and get a good view of these birds. Um, so it's unique that you say that because I notice every morning that I go out, the sounds, the sights that I see. I mean, the good Lord blesses you every time you're out there. You see something, you hear something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now,
You,
now,
you talked a little bit about the hydrilla earlier, guys. How's the hydrilla? I mean, Headwaters has always been known for its hydrilla, and if you go fishing a lake in South Florida or lakes in Florida in general, the better fishing lakes where you're going to have the big bass lakes, typically you're going to have a good vast amount of hydrilla. And a lot of lakes now, and it's been an ongoing thing for about 10 or 12 years, is, going through some struggles with a lot of different, we won't get into the issues that they're having, but Headwaters still has some really, really good hydrilla. And if you get down to Headwaters, you'll see what we're talking about when we talk about how hydrilla, it's not only great for the bass to live in, but it's also a filtration system for the lake. Anywhere you're going to find areas with hydrilla, you're going to find crystal clear water. And that's one of the keys to fishing South Florida is finding clear water. Well, when you get the hydrilla like you do in Headwaters, you're going to have clean water. Um, and Headwaters still has a lot of hydrilla in it, which that's one of the reasons. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but that's one of the reasons that it is such a great big bass fishery is because you do have the hydrilla in it. Um, why do you think it is that, and I hate to say this because I don't want people to hear how much hydrilla it has in it and how good the hydrilla is for fish catching. But why do you think it is that they really haven't messed with it yet, like they're messing with like Okeechobee, like Estapoga, a lot of the other lakes, or have they? But there's just so much of it in there that they you haven't really started to notice it yet. Are they messing with it or not?
No, really, they will spray now and then just to maintain, maybe spray some ice on mats, try and cut down on those. But the biggest difference is that this lake has no houses around it. You have no boat docks, you have no pleasure boats. It is strictly a trophy bass, and you know, obviously they know that spraying to kill the grass is the greatest, thing to do for a fisherman. And unfortunately, we see that throughout the state. Over the last couple of decades, some incredible fisheries have been destroyed because of, well, there's a lot of opinions. We won't get into why,
Yeah,
but the grass disappears, and the
yeah,
grass
Yeah.
disappears from the marsh.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
you made a good point there, and I really actually didn't think about that. But you're right. There actually is no houses. It's more or less the whole edges. No matter where you go out there is all rural. So there's nothing out there, which that's a lot of the reason where a lot of these lakes, even Okeechobee and Estapoga, being even though they're strictly a hunting and fishing lake, they're still spraying them because you do still have the houses on them. You have the boat docks on them, and I guess that's one of the reasons that a lot of I guess the homeowners on the lakes complain. But you are right there. I didn't think about that. There's really
Yeah.
nothing on the lake other than boaters,
Boats.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we got a couple questions. One of them says, with the popularity and notoriety with of Headwaters exploding, have you found it more difficult to find fish with more traffic?
At times, yes. That's a great question. That's a great question. As a guide, as guides, yes, that does happen. But there, as I say again, there's a caveat to that. With that comes community hosts. I look for those other places when I'm not on trip. I'm not looking. I look for places off the beaten path. I got places, Colin and Norman, maybe you may not ever take the boat. Like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
serve them. So, um, it does get a little tough sometimes. But at the same time, the habitat in that lake is flourishing, and there's so many fish in it. There's not many places, Mike, and stop me if I'm wrong. There's not many places that you can go in that lake and not catch fish, but it's the caliber of fish
yeah,
where that'll get you.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
sure. Yeah. And the other thing that I personally think it's overblown a little bit. People talk about the notoriety of it, it gets pounded. But that parking lot is only so, and even the overflow part. I mean, we fished all over the country, in places with hundreds of boats at the boat dock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We had a lake smaller than that. And I even at its busiest times, like a lot of places,
Yeah,
where I don't see no boat.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the unique thing about this lake. To the folks who built this lake and put it together, kudos to them. because I'm going to tell you, when that place first opened, I remember the first day I was sitting on the grain road about half a mile away, waiting to even get into the pavement parking lot to even put my boat in. I was there almost an hour waiting to put the boat
Yeah.
in. And I saw maybe three boats, maybe four boats that day. And I
Yeah.
remember that very vividly because I'm like, I cannot believe that this place is as full as it is. And I think the guy who does the krill survey from FWC, there was a time last year or the year before, they had 175 boat and trailers up.
Wow.
And it's with it's with it's withstanding it. It's the habitat, the places where these fish can hide. And this is the only place that I've ever been where you can go on one spot. I'm talking about live bait. I'm talking about live bait. I can go with live bait 6, 8, sometimes 10,000 shiners in a 6 or 8 hour trip and not leave one spot.
Right.
And you'll go
Yeah.
through every single on there. It is absolutely amazing.
And the
Yeah.
numbers that you
The
catch
numbers of
flies
fish
by
that you
night.
catch in some of these places. So it can get tricky in regards to um, certain areas. I wouldn't say that you can't fish it because there are thousands of places to fish.
Right.
That would allow you to find a place to fish and not be crowded with people. A.T. Kenny said it himself. He and I were talking, and it was amazing that we agreed on that and that we connected on that. The parking lot's full, but that does not mean that you can't go out there and catch fish because
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
is there.
Yeah. And that's like, and I'm glad you said that, is because like when Norman and myself and my dad had went to Headwaters, the parking lot was probably 80, 85% full. And I think we seen maybe four boats the whole day. And I think two of the boats was racing us back to the boat ramp when we were in the storm. So I mean, if it wasn't for that, we probably wouldn't even seen them two. But I think people just doesn't don't realize like really how much land mass that is actually there for headwaters.
Right. It's only 10,250 acres. 10,250 for that effect. But it's how it's set up.
Yeah,
How it's set up. It's got a bunch of deep pits in it that's got 20 plus feet of water. It has all these canals that lead to some of these. A lot of it is flooded farm growth where you have irrigation and hydraulic flood. You have the south end of the lake, which we call Egan Lake, which has tons of old orange grove, stuff like that. A lot of those trees still exist and are still sticking up there. That's bats habitat. Hard habitat in Florida. I can't tell you how many lakes that I've been to in Florida where I can't find a daggone tree to flip on or something like that. They got them here. They got
yeah,
them. They got little orange grove trees. And let me tell you something. We've jacked some big old fish off of them.
yeah.
On the silliest stuff too, like a Nico rig. I was flipping a Nico rig on like 30 pound braid on a spinning rod. Don't tell anybody.
Well, you just told 1,100 people that though.
The guy that was with me that day, he's like, "What'd you catch that on?" I said, "I caught that on the Texas rig, Nico rig." He goes, "What is that?" And I showed him. And then he started flipping, and I mean, we had a great day that day. But you got mats that float around, right? The, the neat thing about the south end of Headwaters is that all these mats that float around, they get hung up in these trees. And I don't care how hard the wind blows, unless a hurricane comes through.
Yes.
Those mats are stuck there. And guess what? Those bass use them, those bass love them, and those bass are under them.
Yeah,
Put that 2 ounce joker in there. Oh, man. I mean, it's game on in those spots. I
yeah,
mean, the South Lake used to be full of hydrilla. But I'm going to tell you, over the summer, we had very high water for a long time. frozen water because they drained well 13. They drained it, so they were holding water in headwaters, and it got up really, really high. And I
Yeah,
think that killed a lot of the grass in the south part of the lake. But those fish don't leave down there.
No.
Those fish are resident. But
yeah,
those fish are there. They get on reed heads, isolated reeds, and guess what? Grove trees, buddy, grove trees, and they're
yeah.
there.
Y'all bet. And that's what they do.
Now, is there any better feeling when you're flipping into them grass mats and stuff like that, and you're punching through them? Is there any better feelings when you're pitching and the next thing all you feel is either you feel like a little dunk or you it just doesn't hit the bottom? Is there any other feeling better than that? Than because you know as soon as that happens, you're about to rip some lips right there. 'Cause-
You want to comment on that one, Mike?
I don't know what's better, that or top water.
oh man, yeah,
He's
that's
a pro guy. He loves the pro.
yeah.
Good
I
flipper.
mean,
Good flipper.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, but you're in. Y'all got the best place to be able to start. I mean, y'all could throw top water pretty much all year round, and
Yeah.
with here, we have to usually wait until the water hits 65, 70 degrees before the top water really starts. Not saying that you cannot catch them. I mean, I've had a buddy of mine. The water temp was 42 degrees, and he was throwing a buzz bait,
Get out of here.
and he stroked some that day. He stroked some bass on some top water with the buzz bait.
And
I
that was
That's a phenomenal day. That's a day you never forget about. 42-degree water temperature, jacket for a bug bait. Man, it don't get any better than that.
no, and I mean, I I like the top water. I like seeing that explosion, but to me, just that when you're pitching, that to me, there's no better feeling when you know. I mean, because people think when it's a big bass that it's going to just annihilate that bait. When if you get a hard hit when you're pitching, it's going to be a small fish 9 times out of 10, or a smaller fish. Usually, you're just waiting on that little dunk, or you just waiting. You don't feel it ever hit the bottom,
Yeah.
and uh, to me, that's the best. When I get so, I guess like I like it because I know all right, the fish has it. When it's top water, I get so anxious, especially throwing a frog. As soon as I see that splash, I mean, unless I do it for like, if I just keep it in my hands all day, I'll get used to it. But for the like, I mean, for the most part, like at the beginning of trying to throw a frog in that first couple explosions, I'm ripping that frog right out. I mean, I'm not even letting it choke it.
And that's one of the things I think separates Headwaters from a lot of the other lakes in South Florida too, is that you could actually throw topwater if you find a stretch of, it doesn't matter what time during the day it is. If you find a stretch that's holding fish and usually holding big fish, sometimes you don't even have to put that topwater down. Where you go to like Okeechobee and other lakes, similar format to what you're going to find at Headwaters. And once that sun comes up, pretty much after that morning bite's done, you pretty much have to put the top water down unless it stays overcast here, a little bit of rain during the day. But I'll give you a quick story. Of course, a couple of years ago, I actually called Steven and asked him some questions if he could help me out because I don't fish Headwaters hardly at all, and of course I go down once a year from February through March to guide when it's colder than shit up here. But anyway, I called Steven a couple years ago because I actually had a client call me and asked me if I could take him down there. He's heard about Headwaters and he's never fished it. He just wanted to go, and I was straight with the guy. I said, dude, I haven't been on Headwaters at that time. It was 3 years, I think, was the last time I was on it, just fun fishing. And I says, I'll take you down there if you want to go. It is a long haul for me. So I called Steven, and you gave me some areas that I need to go and just to catch fish, basically. And I don't know if I was in the right areas. I actually think I went to where the area I thought that you told me, Stephen. But the one day we went down there, I actually had two different guys ask me to go down there, and it was blowing. The one day it was blowing like 25 miles an hour, and I don't care where you were or what you were trying to get behind. It was windy, no matter where you were. I actually found a stretch of hydrilla, and remember, there's white caps now in this hydrilla, but there was fish in it. So I just take a long drift over this hydrilla flat, and we just take and chunk the spooks with the wind as we were drifting, and we were probably drifting about 2 miles an hour in this wind. And once the spooks landed, you couldn't see them; they disappeared because the water was so choppy. But we were catching 3 and 4 pound fish and 25 miles an hour 25 miles an hour wind on top water, on zero spooks, in white caps, drifting a hydrilla flat at 12 o'clock noon with the sun straight up over our heads. And I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, there's no other place in Florida that you would be able to actually go and do that all day. And we basically did the spooks down. We got off the lake like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I think by the end of the day, we caught like 35 fish, and every one of them was like between 3 and 4 pounds on spooks in white caps, just taking one drift. We never left. Once we found that area, we never left, just kept drifting the same drift back and forth. And by the time it was done, we caught 30. I'm thinking, you can't go anywhere else and do that on top water other than headwaters. Am I a little correct there, Stephen, when I say that about headwaters?
Yes. So the unique thing about this is, all right, now, just like it's had a lot of pressure, all right, it's under pressure. I remember from the first time it opened all the way up to now. So there is a difference. I will tell you that. It opened, um, it opened in August, in the summer, and from the spinnerbait out there, over 15 foot of water, and I'm letting it go down about 5 feet. Spinnerbait over open water. I don't know where I'm at, what I'm doing, other than I'm on the edge of a half rope. Okay, so that being said, yes, I has gone by. A lot of people think it's not that easy. All right, fish adapt, fish learn, things can get tighter and stuff. We feel pressure, boat traffic and stuff like that. But we can have two different conversations. One being superficial, one being level. So there's two different. But you're exactly right. Just like I was talking about the south end of Texas. When I'm flipping with Colin, he's on the other side of the boat going Colorado in areas like that. That is the cool thing about it. And Colin and I can catch 8+ pound, same as you can on the top board on
Right.
Right.
there's so many. I think Headwaters is leading the state of Florida right now. Pound back. Over like in the state yards for that right now. So, and that's we had 14 one or two caught. It fell out of us. But it's a captain that works out of Philadelphia, where we were. He had a 15-year-old boy, 51 or 43 or something like that. There's some giant, and you can catch them flipping, you can catch them from and that is the cool thing. You can catch them from. And I'm gonna tell you something. And I wasn't gonna let this happen. I gotta let it. So these deep nets that they bag and have on for some pumps in. And I've been flipping and Colin, you'll appreciate this. You'll appreciate this. Big old James Watson Max this big on those humps, and those big fish love those jokers. And let me tell you something, they hit them like they never seen.
Wow.
And then humps out there, and you're just ripping that joker, and all of a sudden, it's like, ooh,
Cool.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Boys, let me tell you something. You can catch fish doing anything that you want to do on this stuff, and it's phenomenal. And don't forget, right in the area, you got Sticklers, you got Garcia, and you got Keansville right within the vicinity here. And I
Yeah.
mean, just four phenomenal lakes.
Yeah. Well, we got Jerry Brousseau's on here. He's been on here. He's actually asked a couple of things. I mean, y'all might know who he is. I'm just saying. But he said on any given day there will be at least three different patterns working on Headwaters. So Headwaters offers variety of options depends on each person's skills. And then he said with the new lake scheduled to open this spring in Central Florida, we should see a reduction on traffic on Headwaters. And so, I mean, that would be that. I mean, traffic wise, I mean, I guess the benefit of that is you're going to have a parking spot at the boat ramp. But but I mean, again, it was 85% full, and we only seen four boats that day. So, but when we come down there here in July for ICAST, we've got a local guy that last summer or last year he made this, and I want to show this to you. You see, it's got the like a buzz bait on it, and then it's got a frog.
Yeah.
And when I first seen this, I was like, "Is he joking with me?" And I was quite surprised how well this thing worked. So I want to be able to go down to Florida, and because we've got grass up here, but it's nothing like what y'all have down there. But I have thrown this, and it has done pretty decent. I mean, because all it's doing, I mean, you just work it at, like how you work a frog, just a regular frog, but it's giving that extra little with the buzzbait blade on it. It gives it that extra little splash or whatever, and it does. I won't say that it's caught me more fish or anything like that, but I mean I've had fun throwing it. So I'm gonna bring this down there and see what I can smash on it. I, if not, I mean I'll let Norman throw it at some gators down there and see if he can catch one of them.
But I want to get back to Jerry. Jerry made a absolute. I mean, he locked it down. He said, yes, three, 4, 5, 6 different patterns. However, whatever fits you the best, you can
Yeah,
catch it like that.
It's your strength.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, he said it very well. Yeah. The best
Now, uh, and just I mean because I really can't talk too terribly much about Headwaters because I've only been on it once for about 2.5 3 hours. So, but from the experience that I have been on there, just like what y'all were just saying, like fish your strengths. We've been, I mean, just like what y'all were saying as well. It's like I was pitching and flipping. Norman loves throwing a spook, and we were both able to do what we wanted to do, and we ended up. I mean, we jacked some jaws on it, and I mean, my dad loves throwing a little Texas rig, and I mean, he even caught a fish with us, and so, and that's one thing. Like, there's not too many lakes to where you can have. Usually, if you're on one pattern, especially like here on the Tennessee rivers. Um, you cannot do both of you cannot have two people on the same boat throwing two different techniques and catching fish,
Yeah.
and let alone having the opportunity to catch big fish on both techniques.
Yeah. On Headwaters, it's one of the only lakes you can go to where it's almost impossible to back boat your partner on the back of the boat. So as
Eh,
much as I try to
I was
back
about to say if it
possible,
can happen, Norman will do it. He backboated us so bad in the Everglades last
oh,
year,
don't do that again.
it was horrible.
No, 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 no.
I'm sure Norman will that
So, uh, But we have had y'all on an hour, and I know this fat boy is hungry, so we won't stay on too terribly much longer. But let's, Mike, what is your favorite technique? Like, if you're, or what is the technique that you go to? Like, if you have somebody that has not fished that much, that all they're caring about is just going out there catching a fish. It doesn't matter the size to them. What is the technique that you will go to so they can at least catch a fish?
And we're going artificial. We're talking, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My go-to is really a worm. They like them big down here.
Yeah,
So we're throwing a 6, 7 inch Senkos, and just Texas rigging them or wacky rigging them. And that to me just seems to be an easy thing that they can throw, just have them work it slow.
yeah,
And, it's doesn't take too much. And these, like I said, these fish down there, even these, like Steve was saying, these big 11-inch ribbon tails, up north, the fish were punching.
yeah,
Down here, they go crazy.
yeah. And what is it about the big worms that they just go crazy about?
Like, it's a good question. The little pups, the damn ribbon tails,
They're
longer than they
longer than
are.
the yeah,
Um, yeah,
Uh,
and they're just chomping on it.
Yeah, I'll say one thing
So,
about
so that,
the long ribbon tail worms, like your 12 inch, your 14 inch. There's a lot of people even using like 16 inch ribbon tail worms down there now. And I will say one thing: South Florida lakes has a lot of snakes and has a lot of eels, and bass love to eat both. And
yeah,
those 14-inch worms, a lot of those ribbon tails you can work them so many different ways too when you get in lakes like Headwaters that have uh, you know the fish that love them big worms is you could swim them,
yeah,
you could pitch them, you could bounce them on the bottom, you could Carolina rig them large worms. So there's a lot of different ways you could actually work those long big worms. But yeah, I mean the fish love to eat snakes and they love to eat eels, and I think there's a most lakes in South Florida have both, and
yeah,
the fish love to eat them. So but that's my opinion. That's the reason. And like Mike was saying too, I've caught 12-inch bass on 14-inch worms. And when I catch the bass, the whole worm is balled up in their mouth. So basically, I mean that's even like your small fish. All they're going to do is just, and most of the fish hit them head first anyway. They're very seldom going to come up from the behind, no matter how big the fish are. So those 12-inch fish, all they do is
yeah,
one suck, and that whole worm is just balled up in the fish inside the mouth. I've seen catching fish that's like half the size of the length of the worm. And that's one thing about largemouth too, is they are a very aggressive fish. And I've said before, if largemouth bass got to be 70, 80 pounds, it would be worth your life to swim in the lakes because they would literally be like sharks and eat you. That's how aggressive and even them small little fish are when it comes to they'll hit something that you'll never think you'll catch a 12-inch fish on, and by gosh, you'll catch them on a 14 or 16-inch worm.
yeah,
I'll tell you real quick on that. I just want to make a comment on it. Was other people may disagree. It's fine, but it's other things that I like. But I think anywhere that you fish and that spawn is waning down or it's over, those big females those they
yeah,
absolutely feed on the feet. And I learned that very quick on Headwaters. Um, Someone told me a long time ago, like, he goes, son, come June, we're going to be hitting the list. DD 22 football hit and big 11 and 12. And, when Headwaters opened, after that first spawn, that those jumpers in there eat it than any bass that I have flipped at, thrown at, pitched at, whatever like that. Those worms, I fish them a certain way, certain times of the year, certain areas of the lake, because it sets up how I like to fish. Like Jerry said, we have certain ways we like to fish. I like to flip that worm up on high mats, top of the mat, shake it off of the mat, and let it drop right in front of the mat.
Yeah,
And as soon as it drops in front of the mat,
Boom.
boom, and
yeah,
it's gone like donkey kong. And let me tell you something, you get that 89, 10 pound bass on a worm right up next to some ice and mass, lights on. We're talking about close quarter combat.
yeah. And that's, I mean, and that's one thing that I love about fishing is, I mean, from cast to cast, especially down there. I mean, down there, each cast you're liable to be able to catch a double digit bass. Um, but just the excitement of when you might throw, like what you're saying, off, throw it onto that mat and then bring it off and then just drop it right off the mat. And you might think that you're throwing that exact same cast, but the third time you throw that exact same cast is when they're going to whoop. And it's just amazing. Just, I mean, how these fish and uh, just how they react. And sometimes like up here, like they get to where they don't want to feed, and so you have to make them, you have to do something to get that reaction to uh, like during the wintertime, a lot of people here like throwing crankbaits and stuff, and I'll throw a crankbait, but everybody slows that crankbait down because they're thinking, well, the bass are lethargic, and
Sucker up, get
that
that reaction bite.
and so they're wanting to slow everything down. And I figured out, I guess probably 7 8 years ago, that I can burn during the winter with the water in the low 30s upper 20s, water temp that high, that I can get a reaction by burning it and out of these bass, and all I'm doing is burning it and pausing it just to give that look. And then once I start burning it again, and that once it stops, and if it stops right in front of their face, they cannot. It's just natural reaction to them that they're just going to inhale it. And people are like, "How in the world are you slow cranking it?" Or they'll just say something about, well, how fast are you slow cranking it? And I said, I'm not slow cranking this sucker. I'm burning it. And they just don't believe me. And I mean, and I was like, I've put videos out showing that you can do it. That it's all, even though they're not hungry, if you put the bait in front of them, it's just their natural reaction is going to just to eat it, get it out of the way. Pretty much is what I tell people. Is that how it is down there as well?
Yeah, so um, I'm going to relate that to something a little bit different, like flipping, right? So
Yeah.
we're flipping a 2 ounce weight into a mat. You got 3 foot water under a mat. You got a canopy, right?
Right.
I'm flipping that bait in there, and sometimes it's I'm lost in that 30 to 40 feet of mat, right? But what's the difference between what you're talking about and that bait going through there at how many mile an hour?
Right.
And by the time that I get ready to pick up the first time, the fish is already on there.
Yeah.
So the action strike.
Yeah,
They're super quick and they get on it real fast.
Yeah.
Those these fish, on a crankbait up north, you bang it on rocks,
yeah,
lift the mat with 2 ounce weight, and don't shoot them through there real fast. It's no different. All reaction strike. I even think with a big worm, but I'm flopping it off, just pulling it off the edge of that mat. It's going right in front of their face.
yeah,
Even if they're not hungry, they're still going to eat it because reaction strike.
yeah,
So, it's no different than a chatterbait throwing it off the reeds and the isolated reed pits and stuff
yeah,
like that. And it's further away.
yeah,
It's all
Yeah.
about that reaction strike. You can
yeah.
make them work.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
made a real good point there, Stephen, too, because 95% of the fish you're going to catch flipping is reaction.
Yeah.
And what I found too, one of the things I'll do during the wintertime when I'm flipping and everybody talks about downsizing your bait, make it more of a uh, more
Finesse.
of an easier, not really finesse, but make it more of an easier meal for the fish. Downsize and make it a little bit more of a eatable meal. Make it a little bit more smaller, compact. What a lot of people don't realize though is during the wintertime when you do have those cold fronts move in, you get them fish in a lethargic state of mind. Yeah, downsize your bait a little bit to make it have that smaller appearance to the fish when it drops past them. But when you're downsizing that bait at the same time, most people think you got to downsize your weight. Total opposite. When you downsize your bait during the wintertime, you upsize your weight because you want that bait to drop quicker in front of that fish because a fish that's lethargic just laying there under that mat or in that bulrush clump and you flip in there, that fish doesn't really want to eat, but you need to go for that reaction. If a bait drops by it doing that, that fish is going to turn its nose up at it, but when it drops down past it, like you said, 95% of the fish is going to hit it on the way past. They're not going to
Yeah.
hit it once it hits the bottom. So you're going by, and they react to it as it drops in front of them. So beef that weight up, make it drop faster during the wintertime, get that reaction bite out of it. And that's what I found a lot of times is you want to beef that weight up during the wintertime when you are flipping to make it drop faster in front of it and go more for that reaction bite.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Uh, so Jerry said, he said, thank you for coming on and sharing information with everybody. He says, I will see you boys in the near future. I will be with a good friend of mine from Leonard Skinner. So the next time you see him, he might have somebody from Leonard Skinner with him on the boat. Um, so I've got uh, another question, and then we got two more questions. I'll ask one, and then Norman will ask one. Um, what would be an advice if you have, or to somebody that is just trying to get into fishing? What would be an advice that you could give to them to help them to become a better angler?
Well, I would say patience. Uh, time on the water, and the biggest thing a lot of times, I've done is just confidence. When you find, say, the longest time I just thought that took me, the random jig, just why can't I? Well, I went out on the boat, and for a week straight, I tied on with a tip. And just little things like that, to where you start to feel comfortable and learn the little nuances of each type of bait. And you're going to have certain ones that you feel more confident
Yeah,
and that's going to be natural. But just take your time, try to fish with confidence and watch podcasts, things
yeah,
like we're doing right now, and pick up on information. A lot of times it's just subtle things.
Yeah.
right,
Fish small. Start small.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
if you're new, start with some bluegill.
yeah,
Move up the spec, try with the catfish, something like that. I was a youngster. That's how I learned. Bluegill, crappie,
yeah.
catfish, and I'm in the bass and then over. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that it's important for somebody? I mean, because like the fishing industry has so many different baits. Do you think it's important for somebody just to like just go grab a stick worm and Texas rig a stick worm to be able to just like or just pick one bait and get the confidence like what Mike was talking about? Do you think it's more important just to just grab one? Don't think that you got to go buy the whole store to be able to
because
get it.
we have so many baits available to us, right? So and half these baits are made to catch fish but not fish.
Right.
And then, you get out there trying all these different things. Yes, they put basic colors, black, blue, green pumpkins. Down here, purple and black and blue
Yeah.
is the deal for us. But stick with these basic colors. And stick with, a Texas ring or a worm, like you said. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and do it until you really just get comfortable with it. Play with different weights, based on the depth of the water you're fishing. Is how fast you want that bait to fall.
Yeah.
If you're fishing around grass, well, you want to make sure that you got a bait that's going to come through the grass because nobody wants
Right.
to get hung up at
Right.
because it's frustrating. So, uh, absolutely, I agree with that challenge. Find a bait you like. If it's a soft plastic straw or a stick worm or what have you, and fish it if you get it down.
Yeah,
Right.
I always do that little plastic worm and a little spinnerbait. I had two boats, little plastic worm and a spinnerbait.
Yeah.
And if I did catch fish with those, I guess what? I wouldn't catch them.
Right. But and Mike, you just said something that kind of made me think of when you said like when you was naming the colors, like the black and blue and green pumpkin. You can take those colors anywhere in the United States and go catch some fish anywhere. I mean that I don't know what it is about that color that works everywhere. And so I mean I know from up here and fishing all over up in like Tennessee and Georgia and Alabama and stuff like that. That I mean, and everywhere that I've gone, I can go. I can pull out black and blue and green pumpkin, and I can go catch some fish.
Yeah.
Now, come on now. You can't lose the blown and the blown out. Come on.
And
So
one of the things I'll tell you too, to kind of elaborate a little bit on that, is I used to do some seminars and stuff with younger anglers, and the one thing I used to tell younger anglers that's up and coming in the sport is keep fishing simple, man. Everybody tries to make fishing so complicated,
yeah,
and it's really not a complicated sport. Keep it simple, and like you're saying, if you're starting out trying to learn one technique, just try to learn that technique and don't get too fancy with all these different colors, putting 30 different colors on. If one color's not working, you know, keep changing. Just keep it simple. And if you put, I don't care what bait you use, if you put it in front of a fish and make it look to that fish that you're trying to catch, make it look real to that fish is going to eat it. I don't care if it's pink, watermelon color, red with
purple.
swirl, or black blue. If you make that bait look real when it's in the water to that fish that you're trying to catch, she's going to eat it.
Yeah,
And make it simple. Don't try to make it too complicated because it's
yeah.
not a complicated sport. And there's a lot of younger anglers out there that actually make fishing a lot more complicated than it really needs to be.
Well, I think that Norman goes to excuse me. Well, I don't think I think that the forward facing sonar, that technology has made it to where people are thinking they're overthinking fishing now
Yeah,
with the forward facing sonar.
yeah,
To where like when we were growing up, all we knew was to go beat a bank. That's
yeah,
all we knew. So that's all we did. So it really wasn't that it was that hard. We knew, all right, we're going to go hit these laydowns. We're going to hit these ripraps. We're going to hit sandbars or
yeah.
whatever, or shell beds. And now with forward facing sonar, I mean, you see fish out in 60 foot of water and you're like, I can catch them. So, but
I love me some front facing sonar, not so much on bass, but yeah, I've been on the spec pretty good too on the front. So, when clients come and they want to get the spec, I'll show them the spec and we catch them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those folks love watching TV.
I mean, they can,
For one, they're getting a show and they're getting to go fishing.
yeah. So I mean, I enjoy having my forward facing sonar. I mean, it's been a learning curve for me, but there's only so much that I can just stand and just look at a screen. I have to. I'm too. I wouldn't. I won't say that I'm like a power fisherman, but I like to keep a pace to where I can go down and I can cover some ground. Um, but I feel like when I'm watching a screen, I'm just and it drives me nuts just sitting there just looking at a screen. So, but uh, real quick before Norman asks the final question, again, let's talk. Or can you say or tell everybody again where they can contact y'all, and we also want y'all to go and follow these guys on Facebook, and just see the fish they're catching, because as soon as you start seeing these fish, that I mean, because they are very adamant about every day posting the fish, and I mean, y'all will be surprised with the fish catches that they have, and we'll just, I mean, I'm telling you, I haven't been out on a boat with these guys. I'm looking to do it here in the near future, and but just to see what they put their clients on, it will be well worth y'all's time to be able to go get out on a boat with them and just go smack some big old greenfish.
It's
So,
good.
so can you again? Can you tell us where they can contact y'all?
Sure. FLBigBassAdventures.com.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course, you can follow us on Facebook, and you can see a lot of our fishing reports at Fellsmere Fishing HQ on YouTube.
yeah, because y'all actually will get in and sit around like the bar area and just chit chat, and I've really enjoyed watching those videos. And just I mean, because I mean we don't have the lakes and stuff. I mean, we do have Gunnersville and Chickamauga and stuff right in our backyard. But to hear the information just y'all talking about fishing is very informative and stuff, and to be able, some of the stuff, guys, that they talk about, you can utilize what they're saying and be able to take that to wherever you're at, especially when they're talking about fishing the mats and stuff like that. I mean, because if you got a canopy of a fish mat, you can fish it the exact same way that they're telling you how they're doing things, and you can utilize that wherever you're at.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
again,
yeah. There's there's mats all over the place. There's mats in Indiana. There's mats in Kentucky. There's mats in Tennessee. There's mats in places. And techniques will prevail in those same places.
yep,
It's just a little bit different colors. That's it. Probably better. And fish
yep.
might be a little bigger.
Right. So just don't think that just because they're in Florida, guys, that means that only works in Florida. I mean, because there's techniques that I've been able to use, that I've talked to buddies that live in like Michigan, that they're catch how they catch smallmouths, and I've been able to bring that, just talking to them and seeing how they do things, been able to do that here and be able to catch smallmouth here. And I mean, that's even going to Florida and fishing in Florida. I've been able to use stuff that I've done down there and brought it back, and been able. It's all it's doing is just the more information you can get, the better angler that you're going to be.
Yep.
So one comment I want to make is the most fun that anybody has made me is when I broke out a net rig one day. I broke out a net rig at Stick Marsh. I was fishing with Pat
On the shelf.
on the shell bed, and the fish just stopped. And I pulled out the net rig and just started reaching out. I was just dry. And I told him, he's like, "What is it you're throwing there, old son?" And I'm like, "Well, it's a net rig." He goes, "What in the heck is that?" And I'm like, and I was like, "You want to throw it?" He's like, "No, I'm not throwing it." So I still got the fish, and he kept casting and reeling. So
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this, Steve. We Norman and I hand tie our jigs, and so um, we're going to try to run into you. I mean, I'm going to make it one of our put it on the agenda, so make sure we run into y'all at ICAST.
yeah,
And so I'm going to tie some of our jigs, and we've got some micro jigs and stuff like that. That I'll make sure that I tie some swim jigs and stuff like, and the micro jigs, and I'll bring them down to ICAST, and I'll let you try them out on old Headwaters and stuff. And
that'd be fantastic. I appreciate it.
so, all right, Norman. let's hear what this last question is. I think I may know what it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man. This is a question that we usually end the podcast with, and this is for both of you guys. You can answer it one at a time, but if you guys were to have one person on your boat now, this person could be passed away or still with us, and you could fish with them for the day, who would that person be, and why would you want to spend the day fishing with them?
I'll let you go first.
Oh man, I gotta think about that.
we,
Hey, I've lost and I know a lot of creative folks.
it
Um,
doesn't have to be a professional fisherman either, or something like that. It can
oh,
just be
oh,
anybody.
I had to look at that direction. One, just quality too, man. I want to say too, I am where I am because of quality. You know, um, that's a tough question, Martin. Man, that's a tough question. So I'll go with that. I'm blessed to be able to, when we have time, go out and fish with my best friends here, and that does it all for me, man. I'm, I'm sitting here feeling in the same boat. I owe where I'm at right now to some people, and some people have really opened up some stuff for me to be able to pretty much give me a platform to thrive and grow on. And my partner Mike being one of those, but Pat Kelly, that fellow right there as I mean, he's been something else. I'll get ready to tear up here a little bit, but Pat and Mike, can I have two or three, Norman?
Yeah, you can just keep on naming.
And Mike, Pat Kelly, and my dad. My dad got something fishing, man. Can't man, and we haven't been able to fish for a lot here the last few years, but that he got me started. I kind of went with it there, and these fellas got me to this platform right here. So yeah, man, that's my dream team right there, man.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That is awesome.
Well, I do want to say this though, Steve, that it is. I want to tell you thank you for what you've done for me. I mean, with I started that USA Guide Fishing List page, and it never fails that. I mean, every day that you're posting pictures and stuff like that, and. Uh, so I want to say thanks for what you've done. I mean, because I don't get nothing out of it. I mean, I here pretty soon I'm going to go get my captain's license and stuff like that to start guiding. But the main reason why I started that page was for my friends that are guides, like Norman, and then other people that I have. I mean, there's a long list of them that I wanted to be able to have a page to where people can just go to and just ask, hey, I'm going to Florida, who's going to, I need a guide in Florida. So they're able to just go to one area and be able to find that. And so I want to say thanks to you. I mean, because I mean, you was the very first person that ever was like, hey, I'm in on that. Let's hammer it down. And over the past 2.5 years that it's been that, I mean, you've been consistently posting, and I hope that that has helped be able to get some leads for you. Um, and I want to say thanks again. I mean, and Mike, for the friendships that y'all have that we have gotten to over the past couple of years, and being able to talk and just chit chat and have fun. And so, I mean, we, it really shows that fishing is really just a family deal. I mean, everybody's in it. I mean, even though like y'all are making money and stuff and making a living off of this, that that people are still, they realize that, hey, if I can give a tip or a hint to be able to help somebody else out fishing, that y'all will take that step to go and help people out. So I hope that with this we had over 1,200 people on here, and I hope that people just start booking this thing up for y'all, and if you'll let them know that y'all seen them from the podcast, because I want to see how many people books from the podcast. That would just be something cool that uh, just for me to know, to be where we can say, hey, we've had 10 people book, and I mean, and that would be a heck of a deal for us just to see. But Steve and Mike, man, we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate y'all's friendship, and I am ready to be able to get out on the boat with y'all and do some filming. I got my drones charged up, ready to go for y'all, and we definitely have got to do that here pretty soon, brothers.
Yeah, boys, let me tell you, come on down. We'll have a great time, good fellowship, and we'll jack some big old range on.
Yeah.
Heck yeah,
Awesome, man. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
yeah,
Again, it's always a blast, guys.
yeah. So hope y'all live the passion, and we'll see you out on the water, guys.
See ya.
Yes, sir.